A high of 83. Saturday night we'll see clouds on the rise with a low of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all else. I love it, property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
It's interesting. I don't mind when people are united by ideas, by principles, by concepts. But that's not the way unions work in this country. And I say that not as a novice. I must have worked in 4 to 5 different unions. In fact, I was good at it. If I wanted to, I could have got myself another 250 pounds of blubber, perhaps a Buick Park Avenue, and been a business agent myself. But I like to look at myself in the mirror when I shave and brush my teeth. I couldn't do it because you shake down the very worker, shake down the company. And if you're real good at being a shakedown artist, you become a union for the municipality. And then you have to take out these sloth politicians, the Gibsons, and argue who's not going to pay the check because nobody pays the check. They don't have any money. Mark Mix knows this all too well. In fact, he is the president of the National Right to Work Committee, which is not only 2.8 million members strong, but how ridiculous in a country based on freedom that we have to argue whether you have the right to work or not, unless you belong to the La Cosa Nostra. Get the hell out of here. Mark Mix, how are you, handsome?
Shaun, I am doing well. I've been listening. You are as angry as I've heard you in a while. So let's go.
There's a
let's
couple
talk
of
about
moving.
this union thing.
There's a couple of moving parts. Number one, I love that I have to go back, to Illinois, and I hate it all at the same time, right? And I saw a Democrat today from Illinois in front of me cut me off. There's a lot of moving parts, and I had a moron Chicago Democrat call me and tell me that I'm wrong about Michelle Obama and the Obamas. So there's a lot of moving parts today, but yours is a bright spot because what you and your organization did is stand up against the greatest evil, and I don't mean the labor extortion mafias called unions. But you set a tone that could open the door for many, many people to do the exact same thing and say enough is enough when corrupt extortion mafias are financing baby murder. I love what you did. Now tell everybody what you did.
Yeah, Shaun, this was a case that went on for 9 years, and we finally got to the end of it on behalf of a Southwest Airlines flight attendant who had a unblemished employment record working for Southwest. She loved the airline. She loved Herb Kelleher and all the good things they were doing back then. But she had a problem with what the union was doing with the money that she had to pay as a condition of keeping her job. And the union turned around and spent money on a Planned Parenthood march in 2017 with the Pink Hats and all that stuff. And she sent a private message to the union official, the Transportation Worker Union Local 556 president, and said, this is exactly why I support a right to work bill and why I shouldn't be forced to pay dues, because you're using my money for causes I don't believe in. And so this private conversation got a little more aggressive, back and forth. Finally, the union official went to the HR department at Southwest Airlines saying, this lady is harassing me, and this is the lady that has to go talk to the union official. Yeah, talk to the union official in order to talk to her employer. And Southwest Airlines fired Charlene. She came to us. We filed the lawsuit. We went to a district court. We went to a jury trial. She won a $5 million verdict. 9 years later, after appeals and all kinds of delays by the union and by the Southwest Airlines employer, she finally got a check for about $1 million about a week and a half ago. She got her job back, Shaun, but get this. In order to continue working, she still has to pay dues to the union that got her fired.
So this is exciting news, and I'll tell you why. I'm flying Southwest tomorrow. And where does she fly out of? I would love to meet her and have a conversation with her. And you know what's interesting about this? And I'm dead serious. First of all, how'd she get the guy's number? I'd love to know the inside and out, right? How do you get that guy's number? That's not your BA, right? It wasn't the BA. It was the head guy.
Yeah, actually, it was a private Facebook communication. That's what it was. Yep.
Oh, I was hoping for something more nefarious, where you get one of these half-assed gangsters who tries to leverage his position to get some girl to go to lunch with him, and it turns into an argument. And he takes this private conversation. This is the other thing I was telling before you came on. I told Squirrel. I remember when the labor extortion mafia had actual men in it that were tough rather than these pussy willows now. So he goes and tries to get her fired at HR. I hope there's repercussions on this sloth as well, or do you just sue the union in general and not the specific player? Does he still get that anonymity that all the gangsters rely on as they misappropriate funds?
Yeah. Well, we know who the union official is, and we sued the union and Southwest Airlines for this action. And obviously, we've still got a little more work to do. Charlene's gotten money and gotten compensation and got her job back. Yep. But there's still issues involved here, Shaun, to make sure that Southwest doesn't do this again. In fact, the district court judge basically sanctioned the company and the union, sanctioned the company and their lawyers because they withheld information, withheld witnesses. Discovery was a problem. Here's one of the things we learned in Discovery. The TWU, Transportation Worker Union boss, was saying something to another comment in public. He said, in an email, said, quote, "I wish I could give her a list of all the campaigns she has donated to in the last 17 years. Her head would explode." Yeah, that's part of the Discovery. Yeah, that's the politics of it. This argument had nothing to do with the shop floor, nothing to do with their workplace. It had everything to do with the radical agenda of organized labor and how they use that money that they can get as a condition of employment. They use it for causes like this that people disagree with. Well,
there's so many scandals with this criminal entity, this organization started by a racist by the name of Margaret Sanger. This group of baby murderers has been caught selling the body parts, has been caught fraudulently with the PPP loans. Have you heard of this recently? Did you hear this? They fraudulently took PP loans. I mean, they're at the root of every financial scandal attached to government, and yet they still operate. Not only do they still operate, they thrive. But what I love about this case, and they thrive when Democrats are in office because they give them money and other people's money, like the unions. But what this really represents is that every union worker can do the same thing. Now you've set this precedent. I mean, how can you interpret it any different way? I mean, if I were a union worker and they were taking my money and paying these baby murdering scum at Planned Parenthood, I'd go bonkers myself. But now everybody can, right?
Yeah, that's right. They can do that. In the public sector, we won a Supreme Court case called Janus v. AFSCME. It came out of Illinois on behalf of a child financial services protector down in Springfield that protects every government worker from being paying union dues as a condition of employment. But in the private sector, there's still a problem. Charlene works under the Railway Labor Act, which is another labor law that covers airline employees and railroad employees, and they have compulsory forced unionism across the entire country. But Charlene and other employees, if you're listening to this and you want to know what your rights are, and if you think your union's using money for politics you disagree with, give us a call. We can help you too. And I think more people will, Shaun, and more people have. We have 298 active cases today, 298 active cases on behalf of employees that have had their rights violated like this.
It's truly astonishing in the year 2026 that this entity still exists, this extortion mafia as it sits. There is no need for a labor union today whatsoever. There is specifically no need in government where it really thrives because everybody isn't paying the cost of dealing with it. They negotiate against people that they bribe openly. They negotiate against people that never pay the cost of being shaken down, of overpaying. And it's really on behalf of all the taxpayers. It's the perfect system of mafia fraud. And you're in the year 2026. I have to tell you, Mark, I can't believe it still exists. And it could never really exist if the government stood for any real principles. As we go down the litany of, they're either giving your money to politicians you can't stomach and hate and would never give a dollar to, or they're giving it to a group that if you have an IQ over 60, you understand they're killing babies. So I don't know how everybody doesn't jump on board. You could overwhelm the union itself, bankrupt these bastards. They'll get jobs at the casinos carrying the bags of money around.
Shaun, absolutely. And there are limited rights for workers. Unfortunately, this goes back to the 1930s. And Illinois is probably the best case study of the public sector union monopoly that goes on. You guys are on the fiscal precipice of default because of the power of organized labor when it comes to government, whether it be in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois. California is right behind you. New York's there, too. Illinois. Ohio's there probably. New Hampshire, or not New Hampshire, New Jersey. Those states are all in trouble because of this power of organized labor. And you're exactly right. They have this privilege that's unlike any other privilege that anybody else has to get in between us and elected officials, and it doesn't end well for the taxpayer. That's for sure.
Well, and I would not have a problem with it if it didn't have the strong arm, the regulation, the protection of government. I really wouldn't. Right. You want to be in a union? Yeah. Be in a union. You want to pay the dues? Pay the dues. I don't have a problem with it. Compete on the market. But see, the dirty little secret that nobody talks about, they cannot compete. They cannot thrive. And it's interesting because that doesn't mean you can't be in a union in a non-union state. I'm in Florida. There's buildings all over the building. They're union guys. And it's a different union. It doesn't have that air of corruption, that air of scandal that the government unions have. This is where the argument gets hazy because you have to have the perspective to understand the place where the real La Cosa Nostra of organized labor exists is in government. And that's the problem with it. I don't have a problem with the guys on the job site. By the way, I think they should have to compete openly. And if you want to pay more because you want the union bulldog, fine. But I still want someone to tell me what's the incentive for a union worker to produce better than the guy next to him. I have yet to hear an answer to that. It is about restricting productivity. It is about limiting achievement. It is about stringing jobs along and overbilling. And it's really a shame in the year 2026. It's one thing when it's 1875 and nobody can figure out what feather bedding is, but that's all it is feather bedding.
Yeah, Shaun, and that's the difference between compulsion and force and voluntary unionism. You articulated it well. I mean, if you want to join, go ahead. The federal government will protect that. The federal law protects that. If you want to associate with them, go ahead. But when you use force and coercion to get your way, you lose all type of accountability in a workplace, and that's why union officials can act the way they do. And they can say, look, you either pay us or you don't work. And that doesn't work for the worker. It doesn't work on the shop floor. It doesn't work in those states that allow it still in 2026. The states that have right to work laws in the private sector that protect people from being forced to pay union dues or fees, that's where they can hold union officials accountable for their political agenda, for their corruption, for those things by saying, hey, I'm voting with my pocketbook because I can. In states like Illinois and under the Railway Labor Act, where workers are compelled to pay dues or fees in order to get or keep a job, that accountability doesn't work. That competition doesn't work, and it doesn't operate, and that's why this monopoly is such a dangerous thing. And to your point, it's the most dangerous when it comes to government.
Well, and they can't survive without government. And that was the beauty of the illegitimate Biden administration. You want to talk about splashing the pot. You're talking trillions and trillions of dollars went to projects that should have never went to. The overpaying was absolutely astronomical when it came to services and kickbacks. And yet, all the evidence here, and for some reason, they still exist as if, we're going to get the union hierarchy support. You negate, you take away the independence of the union worker himself, and you actually are offsetting, in more cases than not, who he actually supports. The union worker overwhelmingly supported Trump 3 times, and yet the union couldn't wait to kiss that wrinkled old ass and low balls Joe. Couldn't wait. So that's the problem with it all. They made a fortune with him, too. A fortune.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how about the green energy, Mark? How about the green energy? You changed auto manufacturing in the country for nothing. You laid off tens of thousands of people for nothing. And now you're reversing it? What about all those people that paid all those dues all those years? And they thought they were going to be protected. And it goes to show you, only the upper echelon survives. All the real workers, you're out on the line, aren't you? You're out there, and you're on unemployment right now.
Yeah, that's right. That was an interesting segment in union history with the electric vehicles and 4 out of 10 UAW workers. And then there's the waste of taxpayer money, and it just gets better and better. And, Shaun, we've talked about this. They bailed out private union pensions. The Central State Pension Fund got $35 billion of taxpayer money to cover up the declining crisis in that pension because of the corruption and the misinvestment and all those things that happened. There's still $94 billion of taxpayer money bailed out private sector pension funds for unions during during the Biden administration. There's still $20 billion left. We're not sure what Trump's going to do with it, but it's still out there. And I don't know if your pension fund is going to be bailed out by the taxpayers. I don't think it is, right?
Well, I don't have. First of all, I wouldn't have one. I handle myself. I don't want to be next to anybody, and I certainly don't want to rub my money with a Democrat. I don't even like banking unless I know they're all decent people. But when you look at the scandal of the money bundlers, when it comes to this idea that they are in fact stewards or investment advisors or keeping up with it, this is the time that the market has way overperformed. If you go back 16 years and you look at the market, you're talking about an average of what, 14% compounding? Compounding 14%. So in essence, if these money bundler rat bastards who give money to all their half-assed friends, right? If they actually did invest, if they would have bought Tesla, they would be more than funded. They don't even do their fracking job. They're not even keeping up the way a private company would or a private person would because they don't have to. In fact, they're almost incentivized to steal and misappropriate the money. That's why every 7 months it's another scandal of another union president caught acting like a man in a restaurant or a cigar store. I mean, ultimately, that's the way to go. The money bundlers who hold the pension, if you can't capitalize on 14% compounded growth for 16 years, you should be arrested, especially when you're handling money and investments for pensions. There is no excuse why any of these pensions can't keep up. The market has overperformed to the standards any hedge fund guy would be surprised by. The only one who spotted it was Ro Khanna, inside trading Congressman Hoare, made $170 million. Have him manage the fracking pensions.
Yeah. Well, Shaun, just to make you feel much better as we get ready to go, the Boilermakers president, Newton Jones, is on trial down in Kansas City, and here's the quote. He has been charged with making the union funds his personal piggy bank, embezzling millions that went towards salary and benefits of no-show jobs, extravagant international travel, fine dining, vacation payouts, and unauthorized loans. So he's on trial right now in Kansas City. He's going to be, but this is the story of forced unionism. This is the story of no accountability. This is the story of a power that was granted back in the 1930s that's got to be eliminated. Not unions eliminated. Voluntary unionism is fine, but force and coercion lead to corruption. There's no other result.
And, at least back in the old days, they wore Zanzibar pants. They were heterosexual. Now they're wearing women's clothing, and they're in a steam bath with Barack Obama and Alexei Janulius. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Committee, thank you for always making time, brother.
Shaun, thank you, and stay angry, my friend.
Thank you. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show, where Democrats are always wrong, Republicans are seldom right, and politicians are never, ever to be trusted. On AM 560, The Answer.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal. But if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop.